You know, I've been sitting here going over this in my head. Like, everything that I've said so far is so fresh in my mind that it's obviously affected me my whole life. Um, I knew growing up that I was never embarrassed, but I knew my lifestyle of how we lived was different than everyone else's. Um, like I knew there wasn't house parties at every house every night, just mine. When I got a little older, I knew every house in the town wasn't a crack house, but mine was. Um, After I hit 15, I was pretty much on my own. Now, I was with my aunt, and I say my uncle, her boyfriend at the time. I was with them when my mother passed away, but from 15 to 16, my mother had went to prison. I went and stayed with my other aunt, the one from earlier, who was with my uncle when my other uncle shot himself. Now, they're not brothers, them two uncles. Man, this story is just I lived all this. Like, all right, so my aunt, it was my biological, which isn't really even biological, just by my grandmother, who is the main thing in all this, because that was my imaginary friend as a child. Wow. But I stayed with my aunt for a little bit. Then I started bouncing from friend to friend to friend to friend. Now, mind you, me and my cousin at the time, we were horrible. Like, we stole her vehicle, took her boyfriend's vehicle, we were growing weed in her shed. She caught us, kicked us both out. Like, we was doing some bad shit, but that was just how we were. I mean, we never really had the cops called on us. I think I had the cops one time when I was little for vandalizing a house. And it was just me and like 6 or 7 other friends staying in another kid's house whose mom was out doing whatever, and we ended up vandalizing the house next door and then going to sleep like that never happened. Cops waking us up. I got to my house, my mom whooped my ass. Yeah, that wasn't night. That was a day. But I was like, I was probably like 12, 13 then when that happened. And that's at the same time I gave up in school. Now, mind you, up until the 5th grade, from kindergarten through 4th, which really ain't much to be proud of, but I was a straight A student. I was on the honor roll. And the principal called me in his office. And I know why now. Principal called me in his office every week because he knew what my mother, my lifestyle, my family was like. I don't know how, but why else would you get picked out of everybody in your school? I'd say, like, there's a couple hundred kids in that school. It was a big school. Um, but why would he call me once every couple weeks? And when I'd go in, he's like, "Hey, how you doing? I see you're doing well. Still keep up the great work." I mean, he was Principal Rabano, and God bless him if he's still alive. He was so kind to me. I still remember his face. I still remember sitting at his desk. I still remember him giving me, from first, second, 3rd grade, like, I still remember him saying how, happy he was that I'm doing good. And, he must have known my personal life, like what it was like outside of there, but he never asked me. We never talked about it. It was just, "I thought you'd like these. You're doing really well, and I want to show you that we appreciate that you're doing well." And then we move, and I come back to Sharon. And when I get back to Sharon school, the first girl I meet, Katie something, she's like, they had us 4 desks together in the classroom, so we'd have like little groups. And I'm sitting next to this Katie girl, and I'm across from some little punk kid who's now an attorney. No, I smacked his little face off. But anyways, she looks right at me like my first second either. She's like, "I don't think you're gonna fit in." I'm like, I've been going here my whole life. I left for a year. What are you talking about? But that's how the kids were in that school. I didn't care if I didn't fit in. I wasn't a part of that group. I found mine. I found my own. And I saw she really didn't bother me with that. Um, but yeah, he used to, and see, here it is again. I have to say it because that's how scatterbrained I am. Like, anybody who watches these videos and gets what this story really is about, I'm sorry that I jump from story to story like I do. I don't know how to go about it. Like, I don't know how to let it out on here. I'm doing it like this so that I could watch these and then put the whole story together. Like, but this is real. Um, so I go from there to my aunt. She ends up kicking us out for growing the weed in the shed. And then I went to the apartments with my friend, and my friend and his mother knew my mother, so we jumped from this house, which was one of our other friends' houses. When I got for too long there, I just go with him back out to his house. So every time he went home, his mom knew I was coming. But they loved me. They knew what was going on. You know, they never asked. They're just like, yeah, you can come with them all the time, whenever you want. You know, and take care of me and let me eat there and sleep there and, you know, piss and do things, you know, I shower, and they were good to me. And my mom wasn't around for that. She was doing her own thing. She was in prison, I think, at that time. She did go to prison for a while. But as this story's being told, that's another thing I want to put in. Like, yeah, my mother died from a murder. And yeah, I'm admitting on here she was a drug addict. I seen it. But anybody who's a drug addict can understand this. This is the biggest point I can make of this. Because I've fallen down a few times myself. And God, everybody out there knows that. It's a struggle. When someone's doing good, no matter how good they're doing, especially if they are doing really good, if they were an addict, the moment they're doing good and they feel that they're doing good and they don't think it's a struggle is the moment that they can easily fall down. And that day that he came home and said that he had a bad tooth and he wanted to numb his tooth, and he thought if they partied a little bit it might help, and asked her if she wanted to party, and then I'm sure that's what he did, because she was like, what's that? When you're a kid that cares and is afraid of what might happen, you hear and listen, and these things stick to you. They stick to you. Like, I remember. And he asked where I was at. And that's when I popped, but if he wouldn't have asked her, she might still be here. And if he's the one that came home and got her on it, which he is, and then when he came home again, he caught her out doing it, and it made him go and trash the house like he did, well, he started that. He created that demon. He knew what it was going to become. He knew she was a monster on that shit. He knew what was happening. He knew. He met that. They stopped, like, when they quit and they were sober, she was doing so well without him. And it wasn't until she wanted him back for the sake of the kids, because Van had just been born, that it wouldn't happen like that. And she might still be here. And then, especially now, what if he's the one that ends up being the one that did it? How fucking sick is that? Like, he got her hooked on it again. Then when he comes home, she's out with some dude getting dope, and he catches her. And he snaps enough to where he trashes everything in the house and flips everything upside down and throws things out the fucking window and punches a mirror and writes goodbye with her name underneath of it in red lipstick. Um, and then he goes and kills her. What kind of person does that? This is fucked up, right? Crazy story, right? You ain't seen nothing yet. Stay tuned.